What's up, guys? Let's get this done quick in the morning here. I put out college football and NFL videos. I got two college football championship week plays and two NFL plays in a kind of short NFL card week 13. So you can check those videos out. We're on a complete roll. 5-1 last night. And I was prepared for it to go 4-2 with Georgia there, but I hit that St. Joe's winning outright. I had a little bit of a sprinkle on the huge money line on that one too. That was crazy. I love that. Everything's going so well right now. It's the only thing that I lost last night was Detroit Mercy, and they were within 1 point at halftime, I think. So that was looking decent. It was looking up, but they had a really bad second half where they just could not score. So what can you do about that? But 4-2, I still would have been pretty satisfied with, but 5-1, man, Georgia coming through with it. Just the extra, like the icing on the cake there. They were losing that game 61-46 with 7 minutes left or something. I just wrote it off. I was like, well, that's a loss. Then I look again, and then they're within 3 or something with like a couple minutes left. I'm like, holy crap, they actually might cover this. I put the game on, and then they actually wind up winning the game outright with not quite a buzzer beater, but they hit like an 18-foot or so jumper with like 1 second left, 1.5 seconds left, hit it, and that was the game. Holy crap, man. Another big underdog money line cash. I love it. Dude. And then, the hockey play, Montreal, they wound up winning. That was a close one, but they did win. And then, the Pelicans were just like wire to wire. The other basketball games did well. Virginia was the other one that I haven't mentioned. Yeah. So really good night. I'm on such a good run. It's not sustainable, dude. Like, don't expect this to continue to this degree, but it's fun while it's happening for sure. I've won, I think 16 of the last 21 days now have been winning days for me. It's just insane. I'm up to, I think, 22-9 in the NBA and 5-2 in college basketball. I haven't really been keeping track of NHL, my NHL record. It's beating football though, for sure. Football has been my weak link, which kind of sucks. And NFL, I'm like slightly up. I think college football, maybe very slightly up. I don't know, but let's get to today's card, man. I got 3 NHL plays in this huge card here. I'm going to get right to it. I'm just going to talk about the plays and hopefully get it done and be done with it. First play is going to be on the Seattle Kraken, and this is going to be on a big money line dog here in that range where I just play the money line because playing the puck line, you're going to pay too much money to do it. So this is Seattle plus 160 on the money line. They are at Toronto. I think this is a sandwich spot for the Maple Leafs. I don't think it's a good spot at all. The Maple Leafs have been playing well. They're 11-6, 11-6-3. The Kraken, they have a below 500 record. So even though they were a playoff team last year, maybe they overperformed a bit less. They definitely overperformed in that they upset Colorado in the playoffs and made it further than anybody expected them to. But they're having a bit of a regression so far this season, it seems. Toronto 2 days ago beat Florida in a shootout. Huge win over the conference Stanley Finals representative last year. And Florida's been playing really well again this year. That's a big win for Toronto. They beat Florida in a shootout 2 days ago. Now they just stay at home and they get to kind of soak all that in, not going anywhere. And they have a below 500 Western Conference team coming in, Seattle. Yeah, great. And then who do they have in 2 days on Saturday? They have the Boston Bruins, one of the other top teams in their conference, in the Eastern Conference. So this is a sandwich, man. Toronto's got the sandwich between Florida and Boston, two much bigger and in-conference opponents. They have Seattle, a team with a losing record, coming into their house. They might overlook Seattle a little bit. They put in that max effort a couple days ago to beat Florida in the shootout. They got Boston coming up. And for Seattle, they also only have 1 day off. They just started a road trip on Tuesday, and they did not start it well. They lost to Chicago. They had 3 days off prior to that, too. But it was not to be for them. They did not do well in the start of the road trip, losing to Chicago. So I think now they're in like a bounce back spot because it's kind of ugly if you lose to the Blackhawks. Yeah, not going to lie. You lose to a team that's a little bit worse than you are. not good. So now they're coming into Toronto. Toronto's a team with a good record. I think Seattle's going to be focused. I think this is a nice bounce back spot for Seattle, and it's a pretty mega Eastern Conference sandwich spot for Toronto. So that's play one. It is on the Seattle Kraken. It looks like the line's gone down from Toronto minus 185 to minus 177 as a fairly significant home money line favorite. And this says they have 98% of the cash, but 80% of the tickets. I'm not sure if I buy that because that doesn't coincide with seeing the line drop on Toronto a little bit. But I think it's a really bad spot for Toronto. It's a sandwich spot, so that's why I'm doing it. I'm on Seattle, plus 160, I think is what I said. Yeah, so that's play one. Play two, keep it going. We're fading the team that did me well the other night, fading the Buffalo Sabres because I think they're in a letdown spot now against the St. Louis Blues. St. Louis, although it looks like they're down from a minus 117 to a minus 115 money line home favorite. It looks like Buffalo has 85% of the cash on them, but 75% of the tickets. So it looks like Buffalo has the cash discrepancy and the line is kind of moving towards them, but I'm not really totally buying it. And I think that they are, at least as you see with the market there, they are the more public team in this matchup here, even though both teams kind of have a pretty similar record here. They're both around 500, but the whole key here is that Buffalo just beat the Rangers and they beat them in dominant fashion on the scoreboard. And this is a game I was on. They beat them 5-1. I thought it was a really bad spot for the Rangers. And now I think the tides have turned. I think this is an Eastern Conference sandwich, just like I talked about with that previous game for Buffalo this time. And Buffalo's on the road here. But the spot for the Rangers there, they had just beaten the Bruins and they had the Red Wings up next. And they got caught between those two games. I think it was definitely a sandwich as they've been playing well otherwise and winning all those games. They'd beaten the Bruins. They beat the Red Wings yesterday, I believe. But they dropped that game to the Sabres badly because that was a sandwich spot. So now I think the Sabres are going to be a little bit too high on themselves after that big win over the Rangers. Not only that, but, and like I said, that was a bad spot for the Rangers. So you can kind of explain why that happened. Now they've had 2 days off, so that just might be an extra day of kind of like basking in that win. Like, yeah, we just won this game, man. But what do they have up on Saturday after they play kind of a middling St. Louis team who's not in their conference, all on the road here? They have to go to Carolina, who's another one of the top teams in the East. So it's possible that there's a little bit of a look ahead factor there as well. So you're coming off that huge win. You're kind of ripe for a letdown after that. And you got a big game against Carolina up next. St. Louis is the lesser of those three opponents in that 3-game stretch. So, and this is going to be a third straight road game for Buffalo, even though they had an extra day off there, 2 days off. So they've had a few days off in between these road games, but third straight road game, also not really exactly the best travel spot. And it's kind of a weird travel spot because all the other road games that they're playing on this 4-game road trip are all in the Eastern time zone. They're all on the East Coast. They lost at New Jersey, then they won at the Rangers, and they got to go to Carolina on Saturday. But between all that, they have to go out to the Midwest and play St. Louis. It's a bit of an odd travel spot, changing time zones, a little bit strange, I think. And yeah, when you have those weird like single game isolated like travel spots like that, and it's in between games that you might be more focused on, that kind of lends itself to like a little bit of a lapse in focus as well there. So I think there's a little bit of that going on too. So I do like the St. Louis Blues, and I think they're kind of in a spot where they might bounce back because they didn't play well in their last game, which was a second straight road game against Minnesota. So they'd won at Chicago, although yeah, that one thing might be like a syllogism type of thing where people will see, well, St. Louis beat Chicago. And I believe, what did I just say? That I think I just said that the Buffalo lost. I don't even remember. Did I say that? I don't even know. I don't remember. But St. Louis lost to Chicago, they beat Chicago. Then they played 2 days later, lost to Minnesota. Now they have 1 day off. And yes, they're returning home for a single game homestand. That is true. So that's a little bit of a weird isolated spot as well. But I don't think it's going to be that much of a distraction spot with the return home because you kind of just stayed in the Midwest. You went to Chicago and Minnesota, only a 2-game road trip. I don't consider that to be much of a factor. A small road trip, a short road trip geographically and time-wise. So I don't put that much stock into it. They don't have a huge game next. Their next game's against Arizona, although they do have 2 games against Vegas after that. But I think you just dropped that last game to Minnesota, who hasn't really been doing that well this year. They've been playing pretty poorly, actually. That's not a great look, not a great loss. This Buffalo game is in the middle here. This might be a game that you might actually focus on because Buffalo actually has a better record than Chicago and Minnesota, and I think they might have a better record than Arizona, too. No, they don't. Arizona's slightly better, but even so, I think after you drop that game to a team that's well below 500 like Minnesota, you're going to want to try to turn it around here. So I do think this is a bounce back spot for the Blues, but I think it's a major, major letdown spot and potential sandwich spot for Buffalo. So I'm fading the team that did me well the other night there. Excuse me. This is St. Louis Blues minus 115. Let's do it. And then the final play. Another one that I like, and it looks like the market's moving in my direction. I'm playing on the Winnipeg Jets. I've been on a lot of their games recently, and this time I'm going to be back on them and against Edmonton. Edmonton has slipped from minus 130 to minus 117 on the money line as a road favorite. So the only thing that gives me a little bit of pause is that Edmonton, with their worse record than what Winnipeg has. They have a losing record and Winnipeg has a winning record. Somehow Edmonton is a road favorite here. So the odds makers are telling you that despite their records, Edmonton is actually the better team. But I think this is a bad spot for Edmonton. So even though the line looks a little suspicious, it looks like it is moving away from Edmonton. So I don't see the market percentages on this one, but it looks like the movement on the money line is going against Edmonton, so that would be an agreement with me. Even though, like I said, the line looks a little bit suspicious because why would Edmonton be favored on the road against a team with a better record than they have? But I think this is just a letdown spot for Edmonton. 2 days ago, they beat Vegas in a shootout. The returning champs, Vegas. That's a big win for Edmonton. So even though it is Winnipeg and it's a good team in your division, and you did lose to Winnipeg the last time you played them earlier this year, coming off of a shootout win 2 days ago over Vegas, man. And then you just have this one game road trip where you have to go up to Winnipeg before you come back home to face Carolina, who's a pretty good team, even though they're in the Eastern Conference. I don't know, man. Like, that's a huge win over Vegas. So you might not be in the best spot here. You might be in a letdown spot, even though it is against, I believe, a division rival in Winnipeg there. That's a huge shootout victory over Vegas, though. And Winnipeg is in the much more positive spot here. So they're coming off a loss, which I was on. I've been on a couple of their games recently. They came back from a road trip that took them down to Florida and then Nashville. 3-game road trip, but it was long distance wise. They came back home and they didn't play well against Dallas, even though you think maybe they'd be focused because Dallas is a good team. But no, they didn't play well at all. They got blanked. They dropped the game against Dallas. And now the spot that they're in is a positive spot because when you return home from a road trip and you play poorly in that return home, that distracted spot, you then get those distractions out of the way and it's more of a positive spot and you tend to bounce back and play a lot better in that second game. And I think that's going to be the case with Winnipeg here. They see that Edmonton's won 3 straight games. Winnipeg's lost 2 straight. So now the tides are shifting a little bit value-wise, where it's like, yeah, the market's kind of shifting in the direction of maybe overvaluing Edmonton a little bit now at this point based on their recent performance, and maybe undervaluing Winnipeg for the same reason, for their lackluster recent performance. But yeah, I think it's a bounce back spot. It's a second home game after they lost the first game on the return home. I like it. They're getting an underdog price at home. I like that. And I think Edmonton, I don't know how much they can sustain after they had that big win over excuse me. I'm having to deal with a bunch of stuff at once here. They had that big win over Vegas there. Yeah, I think it is a letdown spot. I'm on Winnipeg plus 104. And now let's go to the NBA where I have one play. I will really quickly say I do lean against the Heat slightly, even though the market looks in opposition to me there. They're only a 2-point favorite at home against the Pacers. And people might look at that, and even though the Heat, I think, have a worse record than the Pacers, people still, I think, consider the Heat to be the better team and might think, what's going on with that? How could the Heat only be a 2-point favorite? Although the Heat have 91% of the cash, according to this, but only 68% of the tickets. So it looks like the Heat's cash discrepancy, the Heat have the cash discrepancy on them. I think one of the reasons why the line is short is that Jimmy Butler might be hurt. I think he didn't play in their previous game, but that previous game was a game where the Heat played well without Butler, and they played really tight against the Bucks. They took the Bucks almost to the wire, so I think they're kind of in a hangover spot after that. So I'm not playing it, but that is why I lean against the Heat there. And actually, the Pacers, I think, are kind of in a positive spot because I think they just lost to the Portland Trailblazers, which is a really bad, ugly-looking loss. So I do lean to the Pacers there. The Heat played that tough game against the Bucks. The Pacers had that really ugly, I believe, loss to the Blazers. So I do lean against the Heat there, but the market is just showing me something that gives me a little bit of pause there. And I don't know about the Butler situation there. The game I'm actually going to be on, this is crazy. Is there actually value on the Golden State Warriors? Maybe there is. The reason I'm mostly playing this is because Golden State just lost to the Kings in Sacramento, but the Clippers just beat Sacramento in Sacramento last night. So Clippers are on a back-to-back, and people might look at that and think Golden State just lost at Sacramento. The Clippers just dominated at Sacramento. So how could the Clippers possibly not come within 5 of Golden State here? They're the better team than Golden State at this point, right? Golden State's a below 500 team. They've been playing really poorly recently. That might be what the recreational bettors think. I don't think that's the case. Golden State should have won that game against Sacramento. They were dominating the most of the game. They had a huge lead most of the game. I don't know how they wound up blowing that game and letting that game slip. There were a lot of turnovers. Golden State, I think, had 20 turnovers in the game, and that's, I think, kind of the main reason. They outplayed Sacramento otherwise, man. It was just the turnover factor. Now they have a day off. And they get to refocus, play the Clippers. I think it's a good spot for Golden State to come to bounce back off of that really ugly, just total collapse against Sacramento. That's kind of an embarrassing way to lose that game. I don't think they're going to want to let that stand. On the other hand, the Clippers, like I said, they're on a back-to-back. They played last night at Sacramento, and they demolished Sacramento, but they also only had 7 turnovers in that game, I think, and they shot over 50% from the field. So kind of like outlier statistics there in that performance for the Clippers. The Clippers have been playing a lot better recently, kind of getting it together, but 2 of their recent wins were against San Antonio. So I don't know how much you can put into their recent performance there, but this is the 3rd game in 4 days for them, all in different cities. It's against Golden State, who has a worse record than they do at this point, and yet Golden State is favored by more than home court here. So I think it looks a little bit suspicious on the line there. Why is Golden State that much of a favorite? Yeah, when it looks suspicious, I don't want to go where the public's perceived value is. I'm going to fade it, and I'm going to be on the Golden State Warriors -5. That's going to do it, man. Those are the plays for today. Hopefully we continue this run. Let's get it done. Have a good day. Peace.